workshop. Now I have the honor of introducing a special guest, District Governor nominee Grace Van Zyle. Grace is a passionate advocate for peace and the current global chair of RAGFP, which is the Rotary Action Group for Peace. Grace is a financial life strategist by profession and recently merged her financial planning practice with Appio Wealth, an independent fee-based financial services company. She joined Rotary in 2010 as a member at RC Benoni Aurora and served as president in 2015-16. In 2019, she joined the RC of Johannesburg to lead them to the Centennial, where she served as president for 2 years. This currently is the D9400 Community Services Chair and CEO of the Foundation for Southern Africa's Rotary Clubs, AG Benoni, Benoni Van Bryan, and Benoni Aurora, and immediate past President of District, immediate past D9400 Chair for Polio Plus. As an avid peace builder, Grace formed the first Peace Builder Club in Southern Africa in 2020 and was appointed the Peace Builder Club Chair for District 9400. In 2021, she was forming the Africa Peace Hour as regional leader representing South Africa. Grace is also a peace ambassador for the Institute of Economics and Peace, and in February 2022 was elected International Action Group for Peace as a director for Africa, where she recently has also been elected as incoming chair on 1st July 2024. Grace is passionate about building capacity to create sustainable peace and presents to Rotary clubs all over the world on how they can incorporate peace building in their projects. She's a multiple Paul Harris Fellow, benefactor, Bequest Society member, a Paul Harris Society member, as well as a Polio Plus Society member. More recently, Grace was given a citation of meritorious service by the trustees of the Rotary Foundation. She is also an IEP ambassador, chair-elect of the RAGFP, and selected to lead D9400 as district governor in 2026-27. Grace is married to John Bincliffe and has 3 children, Charles, Chris, and Danae. She is granny mom to Zane, who will soon celebrate his 12th birthday. In her spare time, she enjoys entertaining, spending time with friends, camping, and attempts to master the saxophone through London's Trinity College for Music. We are privileged to have her with us today to officially inaugurate the Facilitators program. I now welcome DGN Grace Van Zyle to address us and mark the beginning of this exciting initiative. Over to you, madam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ragita. That was a really good introduction, and I'm very humbled and honored to be with you this morning, or this afternoon for you. It's still this morning for me. And I'm from South Africa. It's not very warm here today. I hope your weather is better. And it's a wonderful privilege for me to be part of this amazing initiative to inaugurate this particular program led by I think it is from our chapter in India, so our Rotary Action Group for Peace, and specifically Vasanti. So Vasanti, thank you so much for thinking of me and inviting me to this very special occasion. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about peace. And in many instances, when one talks about peace, it's very difficult to tangibilize it. So there's a lot of background noise here. I'm not sure what the noise is there. Okay, so for peace for everybody is different. If I had to speak to a beggar on the side of the road and ask him what would bring him peace, he's likely to say to me, I would like a full tummy before I go to bed, or I'd like warm shelter or a place to sleep. If I ask a woman that is being abused, what would bring you peace? She would say to me, a safe environment away from my abuser. If I ask a lonely child, what would bring you peace? That child is likely to say, to have friends. So peace is very different for very different people, and that's what makes it so difficult to define. Peace is not the absence of war or the absence of conflict. War and conflict are symptoms of an unpeaceful society. It doesn't mean that if you stop a war or if you stop conflict that you are going to be at peace, because there are many different things that one needs to look at. What are the causes of an unpeaceful society. So if you look at some of the causes that would cause conflict, poverty would probably be one of them. When there is poverty, people aren't happy. They steal, they do things that they shouldn't do because they need to put food on the table. When you have people that are greedy for power or have huge egos, that could often cause conflict and wars. If you look at what is happening in the Ukraine, what is happening in the Gaza Strip, a lot of that is determined by people that are wanting more power or they're more greedy. So conflict is not a bad thing. It's what we do with that conflict that is very important. And one of the things I always say to everybody around the world is that peace starts with you. If you are not peaceful with inside yourself, how can you try and make the world more peaceful or make the people around you more peaceful? One of the things that I have learned to become more peaceful within myself is the first thing is when I'm in a situation where I feel anxiety is going to get the better of me, or someone has made me angry and I need to respond, or I feel the need to respond. The first thing I need to do is just take a deep breath and breathe. Let me think before I speak. Let me think before I react. Let me breathe and bring myself to a calm place. Because if I'm not in a calm place, how can I present peacefulness? Don't know if you've ever heard of the term that behavior breeds behavior. So if I come to you in your environment and I am calm and I am peaceful, and you maybe be a little bit worked up or you anxious, my calmness will rub off on you and eventually you would be calm as well. But if I came into your environment and you are highly strung and you are stressed, and I brought that kind of demeanor into your space, all I'm going to do is aggravate the way you feel because my behavior will rub off on you. And it goes the same way. But when you are a peace builder, you do learn that you need to, within yourself, be peaceful. And when you are peaceful within yourself, you will be a lot more able to bring peace around you. So when we say that we're peace builders, we don't mean that you now need to go to your local government or you now need to fly to the Ukraine or to Israel and Gaza to stop the war. What we're saying to you is in your own space, you can be a peace builder, because everything that you do that supports positive and sustainable peace, one step at a time, one person at a time, one community at a time, even in your own home life, in your own school life, and if you are working in your own work life, then when you can bring peace into those environments, you are being a peace builder. So don't think because you're not stopping wars and you're not getting involved that you're not a peace builder, because every one of us are subconsciously building peace, especially when you are taking on programs like you are learning about now, especially when you belong to organizations such as Rotary. Because of the things that we do to help people alleviate poverty, because of the things we do to help alleviate gender-based violence or have equal rights for women, to have equal rights for people with disabilities, all those things touch on the causes that cause conflict. So if you can resolve the conflict, the conflict that causes unhappiness, if you can resolve those issues, you are automatically a peace builder. The other thing that is really, really important when you are a peace builder is to always understand where the other person is coming from. Always have an understanding how they're feeling. Walk in that person's shoes. And the only way you can do that is by having people sit around a table and letting each person speak freely, without judgment, without criticism, and and feeling that they're in a safe space. If you create safe spaces for people to talk about what it is that makes them unhappy, to talk about where it is they're coming from, and to talk about why they may not agree with your approach. But when you're sitting around that table, a lot of us, what we do is when we have these conversations, we are listening to respond. So while the person is talking, we're thinking in our minds, okay, how am I going to respond to this? What am I going to say? And you're not really listening to the person, and you're not really understanding where that person is coming from. So I would encourage you, when you are in any situation, whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's your family, your friends, whether you're just sitting around a social event and somebody is saying something that you may be not agreeing with, is remember, take a deep breath, calm yourself down, be in a calm space, but also stop thinking about how you are responding to what that person is going to say, and rather think, let me understand where this person comes from. Because at that end of that conversation, if you are listening to truly understand, you might get to the end of that conversation to say, wow, I never thought of it that way. I never realized that this is how the person felt. I never realized that there could be a different way to solve the problem, and it's not only my way. And I think when you master that, you can then really become a true peace builder. But until you have done that, you are probably going to be more fueling conflict than what you are going to be solving conflict. If there's anything that I can leave you with today, it is that to master those two things: breathe, calm yourself, and listen to understand, as opposed to listening to respond. From a Rotary Action Group for Peace point of view, what do we do as an organization? So as an organization, when you're a member of our Rotary Action Group for Peace, we have got amazing educational programs. And I have not become a peace builder the way I am because I try to do it myself. I have become the peace builder I am because I've invested time and energy into becoming a peace builder. I've invested time on how I grow as a person, investing time on how do I learn to do things a little bit better. And with the Rotary Action Group for Peace, we have many courses that one can take. Things like the love languages of peace. How do we speak to each other with love and kindness and with peace? How do we recover from natural disasters? How do we speak to people that are going through those kind of disasters that maybe we don't comprehend? But if I take a course to say, well, this is how we build empathy, this is how we teach people to become resilient, I then automatically become a better peace builder. When we talk about gender-based violence, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with people that are the perpetrators? How do we deal with people that are the victims? And how do we understand and bring them around a table to say, how can we solve this? How can we make it better? A lot of times we have a lot of emphasis on the girl child and making things better for the girl child, which is fantastic because in many parts of the world, women are still very subordinate to men and they don't have the same rights. But if we do not involve the boy child with what we are doing with the girl child, we will never solve that problem because we cannot leave the boys behind. We need to teach our boys how to treat a lady, how to treat women, how to treat their mothers, how to treat their sisters, their wives, their girlfriends, and their daughters. Because it's very important for us to cross those barriers. We need to have an understanding from both sides, like I've been saying to you. So we have very many courses in the Rotary Action Group for Peace that you can take part in. The other thing is that when you go onto the Rotary Peace Academy, there's a free course that you can do to understand how do you deal with building positive, sustainable peace? What are the pillars that we need to have in place to say, if we have free flow of information, we have a non-corrupt government, we have all these 8 pillars. But what does it mean to you? If I say those are one of the things that you need to look at, and I say, how do I impact a non-corrupt government? It doesn't mean that you now need to go to government and say, well, guys, you need to not be that corrupt. What I'm saying that if in anything that you do, whether it's at school, whether it's in a community, take that information and say, how do we not come across as corrupt? How do we be transparent with the people that we are working with? So there are many, many courses that you can take. I only have 10 minutes to speak to you about a very, very broad topic, and a topic that I'm really, really passionate about. But if I have left you with one thing that you take away today, that it is about you have to be peaceful within yourself, and peace begins with you, and listen to comprehend, listen to understand rather than to respond. I think that I have equipped you then with something that you can take on your journey through life in any situation, and you can become a more effective peace builder. I'm happy to take any questions, and I would love to learn more about what your program has done. At the end of the program, I'd love to know the outcomes that you have taken with you and how you are going to become more effective in peace building. So thank you very much, Vasanti, for the opportunity. I hope that what I've brought to you brings some peace to you and brings some useful tools on how you can apply peace in your everyday life. Because at the end of the day, peace starts with you, and peace starts with me. So thank you very much.
I start with the first. You said conflict is always not bad. Can you expand a little bit on that? And I will invite comments from the team also, because we have here professionals who are in the HR space and people in the school already working on some psychology kinds of aspects. And you indicated disagreeing is not a problem. Conflict is not bad. Can you comment on that again, Grace?
Thank you, Vasanti. So yes, and I'm going to equate this. I don't know how many people in your audience there are in a relationship with either a husband, a boyfriend, a fiance. And I just want you to look at your relationship and think, have you ever had a fight? Have you ever had an argument? Have you ever had a disagreement? So conflict is unavoidable, but conflict is not bad. It's how you deal with conflict that is very important. And I think for me, if I use that personal reference, that where you're in a relationship and you have a disagreement, whether it is over something very simple, like you didn't hang the towel up properly, or you didn't, because sometimes these conflict things come from very silly little things. They're not major things. But if you do not have those arguments and disagreements, you do not learn to understand where each person is coming from. So for me, conflict is necessary, but it's how you deal with conflict. Because if there wasn't conflict, it would mean that we are all the same. We all feel the same. We all see the same things. We all respond to things in the same way. And we all know that that's not the world. The world is not a perfect world. We all come from different backgrounds. We all come with different belief structures, with different cultures, with different expectations. And conflict sometimes is what highlights those things. So if you have conflict, say, for example, you have a protest in a company because the company employees want more wages because they're not getting by on their money. You could have a protest which is not violent and it's peaceful, but you are saying, guys, we need to talk about this. We are not happy with what we're earning. But if you do a protest and you're going to be throwing bombs and you're going to start hurting people, and then that's a violent conflict. And it would mean that you haven't created the environment where you have brought all the people around the table to say, talk to us about what it is that you are unhappy about. So conflict doesn't necessarily have to be violent. It is when it becomes violent that to indicate that there wasn't a process to actually allow people to discuss and to bring their conflict to the table. So I hope that example, a very example, gives you a little bit about context, the little bit context on conflict. That conflict is not necessarily bad. It's the way we deal with conflict that makes conflict bad. So if you do not want to listen to the other person, or you do not reach an agreement, or you don't come to some consensus, that is when conflict then becomes uncontrollable, and it becomes riots, it becomes war, it becomes all those kind of things. And in a marriage, conflict would end up in a divorce, or it would make the one person give up their identity, or not be a person. So it depends what conflict you're looking at, but as I say, I don't believe that conflict is bad. That is a way for us to understand where the other person is coming from and really understand. But as we as peace builders, we need to open our minds to that and recognize when there is conflict, to say, here's a potential conflict situation. Let me find out where that person is coming from. What is causing the unhappiness, and be willing to openly discuss these things and listen to understand and not listen to respond. Because many times when we do that, it's our egos that are speaking. Many times when we do that, we don't give consideration to the other person, because it's just our point of view that's important. And that is what causes conflict to then get out of control. Conflict is not bad. And I would encourage you not to run away from conflict. A lot of people keep quiet because they don't want to rock the boat. A lot of people say, oh, I don't like conflict. I steer away from conflict. That's not my thing. And when you do that, all you're doing is you're brushing things under the carpet. You're making a problem become bigger because you don't want to confront the problem or the conflict. So don't try and avoid conflict. Approach conflict in a calm way and in a way that you want to understand what is causing the conflict. And I think we would be much better at that. Running away from conflict is only going to make the conflict bigger. I hope that answered.
Comments from the floor? All right, thank you. Then we'll start off.
Thank you, DGN Grace Van Zyle, for inspiring words and for inaugurating this important program.